time for a friendly, open discussion with Jonathan Vila, senior software engineer at Red Hat, and he's also Java champion. Of course, I have lots of questions to discuss with Jonathan, and I think you also have some questions in mind, and maybe you will have. Please use Slido. I'll keep the tab open, and I already see some questions. And feel free to send your questions while we have a discussion with Jonathan. On that, Jonathan, welcome to our virtual studio.
Hi, nice to meet you, and thank you for having me in this conference. Thank you very much.
Hello. Nice to see you. My always question to our dear speakers, where are you streaming from? What's your physical location, maybe time zone?
Well, as you can see by my window, I'm in the Seychelles now, having an amazing weather, and well, I was having a bath in the sea 5 minutes ago. Did you buy it? No, right?
Nice photo wallpaper, but not.
Okay. No, I'm in Barcelona, Spain, and I'm on now. It's 7 p.m. So we are CET time zone.
Yes, cool. Yeah, it's also my time zone, and I'm from Norway, and for some reason, I'm thinking that the weather behind my window is a bit chillier than the one in Barcelona.
Yeah. Well, the current weather for me, it's so chill. For me, it's 4 degrees. I assume that for you, 4 degrees are not a big deal, but
4
for me,
degrees
they
are,
are.
I wear shorts, yes.
Okay.
Good. Nice. So, thanks for joining. And our today's topic is Java development, Java in the cloud, Java everything. And to start the discussion, the holy war question: Maven versus Gradle. What's your take on this?
Well, it's easy to answer. In fact, I've yeah, I barely used Gradle, so I've always used Maven for all the projects, and yeah, usually in Red Hat, I would say that well, at least in the team that I've worked, we basically use Maven. So yeah, Maven is it's the answer. I would say that I haven't had any issue with using Maven, so that's
Yeah, sounds good.
that's
Very,
that's very
very
nice.
pragmatic answer.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's discuss the connection of Java and cloud. So this is Cloud Builders event dedicated to Java. So in your opinion, how this hype with cloud, hyperscalers, public cloud, and moving everything to the cloud changed the way we build Java applications?
Well, I would say that for some people it hasn't changed anything, just because they simply package their applications, put them into containers, and deploy in the cloud. But I would say that yes, with before Java 11, we had some issues regarding memory and CPU discovery from Java, but now that's going very well. And I would say that in most of cases, people are just simply packaging their applications, putting them into containers, and in fact, the application doesn't know if they are in a cluster or where they are. But I would say that if you go to a more enterprise vision of this, then yeah, microservices, um, money paid on public cloud providers, I would say that they have driven a big change in order to make smaller machines with less memory footprint, fast startup. And I would say that has definitely shaped what we have in Java today, because yeah, Java per se is not very fast in startup. So we needed something in order to go to high scalability, or even to go function as a service, so serverless um, approaches. So we needed something there. And then GraalVM has filled that space, and now we can go to the cloud, and even I would say that we can do most of the things that you were doing before with Python, Go, and even Node.js, but now you can do it with Java. So now Java, I would say it's a language that can be totally used in cloud without having in mind this performance lag that we had before.
Awesome. Yeah. You mentioned a very interesting point. You still can build application, a Java application, Java project, without ever thinking that this will run somewhere in the cloud. So you build, let's say, using old gold approaches, architectures, methodologies. At the same time, we have very strong motion called cloud native, and actually, our first session was dedicated to exactly that huge, big thing. I cannot call it a new thing at the same time. Where well, you have to start planning your application, planning your project, keeping in mind that this will run in the cloud, and of course, it involves lots of architectural decisions. Um, Let me ask you something like this. Could you succeed in your Java developer career without thinking about that, without knowledge about the cloud, without being just a strong, like professional Java developer, and what's beside this like bubble is like I don't care, or you still have to look at how to build not just Java applications but cloud native Java applications. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I would say that nowadays, my personal opinion on this is that I would say no matter the language that you use for coding, uh, you need to have a cloud mindset. So, in order to deploy to Kubernetes, to know how to deploy, to know how to interact with the cluster, so that's I would say that's a must nowadays. Most of the people that I know in the companies that I have contact with, they are just doing this because, yeah, the language is important, but sometimes you can create the same thing in different languages. But the important thing nowadays is where you deploy that, and everything is going to the cloud. We we need to implement 12-factor architectures, having everything as an external dependency, an interconnection between services. You need to know exactly what are, let's say, pods, how they interact, um, what is this thing about scalability, what is this thing about observability. um, I would say, so answering to your question, yeah, I think not. You need to have this cloud mindset when you work, talking as a career thing. So there are lots of people that are not interested on the cloud because they approaches or their companies are creating different things. But I would say that every day less companies are only focused out of the cloud. So in the end, you are going to create containers, you are going to create deployments because you need to deploy something. And every day, more companies are having that the developers are the ones that are really deploying to, at least on test clusters, at least on stage clusters, you are deploying. So you need to know, and also um, to tweak the performance of your application, how it responds to the different microservices where the application is going to interact. You need to know that you are creating something for the cloud because it has some special rules that you need to do. So, yeah, I would say that nowadays, yeah, the language is important. I would say, yeah, but where you deploy the application, so the cluster is way more important. at least for my point of view.
Yeah, I fully support you in that opinion. Yeah, you mentioned very good term, cloud mindset. It's really good idea to have the one to learn about the one and to apply the one. And you're absolutely right that I also see this strong trend when developers are not just builders; they are also take more and more serious part in what's happening next with their code. And yeah, it's absolutely not exotic for, I believe, many developers not to only write the code, build the code, but also to deploy it, as you mentioned, at least to the test locations. And to, of course, then you need to understand what's going on there, how to debug, how to test, etc., etc. So yeah, that's really
Exactly.
important skill in the career to succeed. Cool. One of the questions we have from our participants is saying just literally GraalVM and cloud. You already mentioned this name. So could you elaborate a bit your opinion on current state of GraalVM running in the cloud, and maybe what could be the future of this technology?
Well, I would put few numbers here that can illustrate what I'm thinking. So let's imagine that we have a small application in Java, written in Java, an API. So it's a small application, it doesn't do much, but if you use usual frameworks for doing this kind of applications, probably it will take 4 seconds to start. And it will take, I don't know, 600 megabytes of memory. This is this is nice if you have a 24/7 application running somewhere that you don't scale, and yeah, it is running. So really you don't care much about the startup time. But let's imagine that you want something that adapts uh, to the real consumers of the application. So now you have one consumer, then you have 1,000, and then you have 400,000, then you have 1 million, then you have 1,000. So you don't want to have an application. So let's say I can have a super big application with lots of memory and lots of CPU that can handle all those connections. But this doesn't scale because when you have 400,000 users, yeah, probably that's fine. But when you have 1,000, your application is barely doing anything, but you still are paying for the infrastructure that you have provided. So then what you have to have in mind is to create small things that they don't have a lot of power, but they can, I don't know, handle, let's put a number, 500 users. So I have a one piece that can handle 500 users. Then if I reach to 400 users, I'm going to spin up another piece just in order to can handle 500 more. And then you spin. And when you are reducing the number of consumers, you are killing those pieces. So you are only going to pay for the pieces that are living in a certain moment. So for that, you need something that it is fast and that it consumes less memory. And the traditional approach with Java can is not providing that. So because as I said before, 4 seconds to start and 600 megs of memory to give response to a small API is doesn't look right. But then there are a few frameworks. I can mention Helidon from Oracle, Micronaut from OSI, and Quarkus from Red Hat or Spring Native. They are um, frameworks that have several optimizations that you are still running programming with Java. but then you can put a piece in the end of your process that doesn't imply touching anything of your code. So I can give example of Quarkus. So to if you use Quarkus, that is a framework based on a standard library, so you're barely using Quarkus. Quarkus is something that it is behind. So to create a JVM bytecode, you do Maven install, Maven package. That's it. Okay. If you want to create something that will reduce from 4 seconds, well, in the case of Quarkus, can go to 2.5 seconds, to 16 milliseconds, you only need to add -p native in the command line of your Maven. So, and you are still using Java, you can use REST Easy, you can use Camel, you can use several things that you are already using, and you are going to move to 16 milliseconds and 21 megabytes of memory. Compared to 4 seconds and 600 megabytes of memory, then that thing can go to the cloud because it can start super fast in 16 milliseconds. So these frameworks can provide code that can be used by GraalVM that will produce a native artifact that doesn't need any JVM installed in the machine. So using any of them, you will have something that will run very fast and with low memory footprint. What does it mean? Well, you can have higher density in your cluster. So where you had before 10 um, applications, now you can have 100. So paying the same, you can give way more throughput. And also, even you can just think on going to serverless. So it's something that your application asks for something to that function. That function will start. There are several things to be involved, but reducing, you will call that function. That function will start, will do its thing, will respond, and will kill. So that's what it is. So then you are only going to pay by the time that the function is running. But that thing can only be achieved if you have something very, very, very fast. So now with Java and and GraalVM, using one of those frameworks, then you can go to native approaches, and then you can go to cloud, and even consider going to function as a service. So that's a big change that we couldn't do before. That's why several teams were using Go, were using Node.js, or were using Python to create lambdas in AWS, for instance. It was not so common to use Java, but now you can. And even you can increase a lot your cluster density, paying the same and having more power. So definitely, Graal is a very, very, very important thing that will take your Java code that has some special conditions, and then will convert it to a native artifact that will take less memory and it will start way faster.
Yeah, that sounds like a really amazing opportunity. So I think I strongly recommend you folks to have a look at this and maybe start using this. Maybe that could be a really nice solution for your particular project. Okay, Jonathan, we are closing to the end of our discussion, and let's finalize it with something inspiring. So, what could you advise? What could you recommend to the Java developers, to people who watch us? And there are many beginners from this group of people. Some folks, of course, are advanced Java developers. So, what's your general advice? Where to look at? Maybe some new frameworks, maybe some new technologies, and how to develop yourself as a Java developer.
Well, I would say, summarizing, I'm old enough to know that technologies come and go. So I've been working as a developer for the last 30 years, and I've seen several technologies appearing, being the most amazing thing, and disappearing. Um, I would say that the power and something that has changed my professional life amazingly is the community. So you can always learn new technologies, but you need to be exposed to the trend, to the companies, and the best way to do that is to join your local meetups about Java, uh, Java user groups. Connect to them, try to help. You don't need to be an amazing developer. No, that's not important. What is important is that you want to be connected. You will find a lot of good people. They will help you. You will have the opportunity to know new approaches and to even to commit to open source projects. Then you will have exposure to companies, and you will discover new things, new companies, new people that will open definitely your eyes. It did for me. So I would totally encourage you to focus your efforts on community. As I said, technologies come and go. It's important to know what it is being used right now, but you will be constantly exposed. If you join a Java user group, you contribute to open source, you simply help the Java user group to organize talks, you prepare talks, you give talks. Just always think about the community, and the reward is amazing. I can say that because it has happened to me. Community is the most important thing.
Yeah, I absolutely second that, and yeah, my involvement in community brought me so many interesting opportunities, so many interesting connections, and yeah, I did great career steps thanks to the contribution from community and my personal contribution to community. On that super inspiring, super optimistic note, I want to say thank you very much, Jonathan, for joining our event. And let's stay
Pleasure.
connected. And folks, be like Jonathan. Support Java user groups, other technology user groups by your sessions, by your technical demos, by your appearance.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
And bye bye, Jonathan.